Okay. What was I saying? So I believe that when anybody that says I want a better world, like you were saying, like I don't believe in God that's evil, right? I can only believe in a God that has got morals. To me, that is because you're a part of God, and God is.
No, but I don't say that.
No, you don't say that. I'm explaining my understanding of what God is. So anybody can come and be a positive influence on others and bring and make things better. And from that perspective, in a sense, it's godliness coming down to the world, right? So when somebody does that on a larger scale, right? So that's the same thing, just on a larger scale, right? But I do not believe it as, like I said before, as this separate thing. And that's the way it looks like in the Bible. But I don't believe it in those terms. But I do believe it. Yeah, that's.
We do disagree. You're right.
That's a fundamental disagreement.
Because I don't see any conceptual problem with a God who we both agree is without beginning, without end, eternal, all-knowing, all-powerful, and the originator of all that exists, being able to communicate something of his will and purpose to the creatures that he has made. I see nothing incoherent or problematic about that.
I don't need them to me. I just don't see a world that way. I just don't see the world being that way.
But it's there in the Torah.
I don't believe that.
And you're a religious Jew. Hang on, you're a religious Jew who doesn't believe in the Torah. It's like saying I'm a Muslim, I don't believe in Allah. Well, what kind of
I believe that it's God's inspiration of God, right? I just don't really
but if he can go to the trouble of inspiring something, why can't he go to the trouble of actually communicating in intelligible language? It's almost as if it's a crudity which somehow offends against a more sophisticated mind. But I don't see, if you believe something is inspired, i.e. is purposefully brought into being as a sacred text, which suggests will and volition, intelligence, you stop short in saying, oh, but he didn't actually say anything, but I'll allow he inspired it. This seems to be a very arbitrary distinction. Well, why can't you go the next whole hog and say, well, actually he inspired Moses by giving him the Ten Commandments? I don't see why you have to allow A but not B. They seem to follow on from each other quite naturally.
Very true.
I don't see the world that way. It's just the way I see the world, right? I don't see. I don't.
Well, I'm asking the rational grounds of your belief. Though,
it's not. It's not a logical reason. It's just the way I perceive reality. It's just the way I perceive reality. It's not. I can't. It's not. There's nothing logical about it. Either way.
You do yourself discredit. You're a very logical, intelligent person.
No, of course. But if I say that tree is green, it's not. There's no logical reason why it should be green. I just see it green, right? I just see the world to be in a certain way. Not necessarily there's a logical reason it has to be that way. I just see it that way, right? I understand that that's the way I understand the way it functions. This is the way it looks like it functions to me, right? I can't prove that it should be that way logically.
I'm just trying to look at the logical outflow
but
of
do you
what
understand
you're
what I'm saying? No.
You just believe it because you just believe it.
But Paul,
you could say that. I mean, no, you could.
This is arbitrary, is falling in love or preferring this kind of clothes to that kind of clothes. It has no rational, objective basis, and you can't discourse about it.
No, you can't discourse about it. It's the way I see things. I mean, you probably could discourse about it. I'd have to think about it. I'd have to think about each individual thing. Why I think that way. I think it is that way. But it's not a logical matter. It's just the way I see things. It's not. I mean, you can call that arbitrary, but I mean, I don't think it's arbitrary.
Kind of in your defense a little bit.
It's just the way I see things.
Why is there a requirement for God to give instructions? Could he not create us, as I would if there were a God believe, which is that version, and allow us to do what we do? Why is it that we need to have instructions? Is there a need for that, in the sense of like, without it we couldn't survive?
I don't say it's a requirement. I never said it's a necessity.
Okay.
I'm talking about it in terms of an antecedent probability.
Okay.
An antecedent probability, by which I mean, if there is this God that we, beginning without end, with intelligence, will, and purpose, and so on, it is likely, I would deduce, that such a being would wish to communicate something of his goodness, or his mercy, or his guidance, or his wisdom to the creatures that he has made. It's not a necessity, it's an antecedent probability.
I agree with that.
But that's really...
But that's about
why? Why do you agree? Just because you...
No, that makes sense, right? If God created the world, he would want people to know what to do on the planet. I mean, that makes sense.
Well, that's basically exactly what I just said, yeah.
No, I agree. That's what I agree with.
But I'm saying it's an antecedent probability. But basically, this is a rational consideration.
Yeah.
An antecedent probability. So it's an a priori likelihood. Given A, you're going to have B, but it's not a necessity. Because God could have just shut himself up in the deist conception of the deity, deism, where God is self. He basically Aristotle's conception of God is a guy who set off the universe and basically went on holiday, and that's it. You never hear from him again.
That's a crude deist.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he didn't believe in a personal God. He was a first cause, but not personal God.
Okay, but what's wrong with that?
Well, the way your face, I'm reading your face, suggests.
Guess what? Yes or no? Go on, guess. Go on, wild guess.
I might doubt my. But there are. There are deists anyway.
Oh, of course.
Even in Judaism, the Enlightenment, Judaism, and in Islam, Christianity.
Not Orthodox.
Oh no, I haven't said they're Orthodox.
Oh yeah.
So is it just your? So Paul, is it just your opinion that that's something that a God would do? Because it could be the deist God.
And tested in probability.
So how do we establish?
It's a likelihood, given the factors, given the character, the concept of God that we have agreed upon. It is very likely that God would go out from Himself to share His goodness and wisdom. It's a reasonable.
It's not incoherent. I agree with you, but why would we add that bit in? Why could it not be that God created the universe and allowed it to play its own course? Like, I always think of it like a chess. You fashion the pieces, you let them play. The rules are the laws of the universe. The rest is just you play. You're not wanting black or white to win. You're just letting the game play. Why not?
A stronger argument then, again, probably wouldn't convince yourself, but I find it compelling, is that if you look within ourselves, I believe we're creatures of God. And that we have consciousness and will, and we
want purpose, right?
And we want purpose and meaning, and there are values that we treasure. The values of love, of joy, of friendship, and so on, and knowledge, and
Even Monty Python realised that.
Even Monty Python realised that. That being
although
true,
he couldn't figure out what it was.
No, indeed.
But he knew that there was that they should. He knew that he wanted something.
If that is true, then we cannot say that is less true of God Himself. That He is the source, not just of our physical existence and the universe, but also the source of love and truth and knowledge and those values which we believe are objective and not just humanly generated from nothing. So it all points, multiple lines point to a transcendent God who is personal rather than the God of the philosophers or Aristotle, as I mistakenly think
I wouldn't say that they're deists, but
okay. Well,
if they were.
Are you happy with Kantian's conception?
I don't know his conception of God, but he could be a deist. I could imagine
he's a deist.
Yeah, I could imagine.
He believes definitely in God, but he doesn't believe in this Christian God at all. He rejects it.
No. Yeah, I could imagine.
So Kant's theology.
Right. Because you talked about we need a purpose in the sense of like we've got to have it, and so it sounds like that's a way to kind of almost in a sense smuggle in the fact that God has given us purpose, whereas we can each have a purpose for our life, but that's different to us as a human race having purpose.
The essence of what it is to be humans. This is a judgment about humanity.
Yeah,
it's not that we are people who
strive for purpose,
who strive and love and have meaning and purpose.
But that's subjective purpose for each of us.
It's subjective in that it's experienced individually, but it's an objective truth about the human species.
What is?
That we as a species value as a supreme value love and intelligence and striving and knowledge.
None of you white men value black people are far.
In other words,
we were the first people on earth.
Give him a minute.
We civilize you. We civilize you.
You're absolutely right, sir.
I agree.
And I'm grateful.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Your civilizing contribution.
Thank you. You should keep doing it.
Without his civilizing influence, where would we be?
He's demonstrating it wonderfully.
It's just more of it. It just keeps on coming. We just love it.
I just want to bring a point. The fact that we seek purpose
is borderline.
Is objective. What that just listen to this. The fact that we all seek purpose is objective. What that purpose is subjective. I was just
but you are purpose-seeking animals, and that reflects something of the character of God.
Yes,
actually, it's not a random. I don't believe in blind evolution that just randomly throws out species like that. I don't think that's what's going on. I think.
But you can't prove it's not. Well, so it's nice to think that we as a species got purpose, but we can't prove that.
I think a better explanation is one where God superintends a process, a trajectory, as I said before, which is already known by God in advance. So through evolution. Human evolution or biological evolution in general, the Big Bang. So if you rerun this whole process, it's like Simon Conway Morris, Professor of Evolutionary Paleontology at Cambridge University, who's also a Christian, by the way, but he believes in God. He's talked about if you rerun the evolutionary process again from the Big Bang onwards, you would pretty much come with the same result, ending in carbon-based life forms that we are today. So it's not like there are random outcomes all the time. That there are certain patterns. There's certain patterns in the evolutionary process that produce themselves and reproduce themselves to certain ends.
How does he know? Where'd you get that from?
Read his stuff. He's now the actual professor of evolutionary paleontology at University of Cambridge, one of the world's greatest evolutionary theorists, and he also believes in God. So you read his stuff; it's very good, very enlightening.
Paul, I want to send you something.
I'm going to say that's a load of bollocks. Without reading
Which part of what I've just said was a load of bollocks?
No, not what you said, what he said.
Okay.
Not what you said, what he said.
Well, I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
Right, no, fair enough.
I'm just telling you what a leading scientist
No,
says.
I understand.
So I'm saying it's not just my crazy idea. There is a crazy scientist.
There's a crazy scientist.
There's a crazy scientist at Cambridge who is saying this as we speak, and it is published peer-reviewed work.
I just want to.
Simon Conway Morris. Conway Morris is his surname. You Google it, it'll come up with Cambridge. He's written lots of popular books. You can see him on YouTube.
Simon Conway Morris. What's the book?
I don't know.
Simon Conway Morris.
I can't remember. That's the book, by the way. I don't know. No, it's the author. I mean, just Google. Look on Amazon. You'll get a flavour of his work.
Okay.
Carry on.
Paul, I want to send you.
That's it. I can't remember what I was saying.
I don't know what we're saying. Okay.
I want to send you a book.
No, it's so evolution. I just want to ask: is he saying that from physics you can get to biology? Is that what he was saying?
No, he's talking about biological processes themselves. There's a trajectory within, and you can see this through various examples. There's a trajectory within the biological realm as it evolves over the millennia, the millions of years, that pretty much has the same outcome, no matter how often you rerun it. In theory, so
how could you rerun?
So he's saying that we're not here by accident. That there is a process that leads to our eventual existence. No matter how many times you rerun theoretically the same evolutionary processes, you're going to reach pretty much the same outcome.
Is he saying that he believes in Darwinian evolution, but
yes.
it would happen?
Oh, he's a Darwinist through and through.
Okay, so it's
he's absolutely Darwinian.
It's complete bollocks.
Okay. Well, so what's your qualifications in evolution?
Okay, I believe in evolution, right? That we all came from a common ancestor, right? But I do not believe that the Darwinian process has any validity whatsoever at all.
Okay, we could have a conversation.
Yeah, we'll have another time.
That's pretty radical.
But the bigger point, which I actually, to a degree,
it's the truth.
Oh, you believe in the truth now, do you? Okay.
Of course.
The bigger point, I agree with Paul.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Do you believe the universe is deterministic?
Well, it's going to be a mixture, but the randomness that they claim, none of that exists.
Well, not necessarily, but actually you're onto a point, because I actually agree with Paul. When they say rewind the universe, as far as we can see, and I was just reading, and that's what I want to send Paul, a short book to read, and I'd love to get your view on it. Determinism is the only credible option for the entire universe, which unfortunately makes a bit of a mockery of free will, as most people understand. So I want to send it to you as a short 100.
What about quantum mechanics?
Not hardcore. He's not saying.
What about quantum mechanics?
There's a metaphysical.
It doesn't help you with free will, even though it's random.
Free will. Let's talk about determinism. Let's talk about determinism.
Yeah.
You can't. Fundamentally, it's not a deterministic world. It's just that the world is set up in a certain way that it acts in it has certain behaviors. That doesn't mean it's 100% deterministic.
No, it doesn't have to be 100%, but it's a combination of determinism and randomness.
Yeah, but the question is what is determined and what is not. For example, we know that if you plant a seed, you're going to get a rose seed. You know you're going to get a rose bush. That's determined. But that doesn't mean, right, that what I'm going to do tomorrow is determined. Okay.
Actually, it is if you look into it. I'll send you the book as well.
That's
Actually, it is.
The reason I agree with this, because if you look at my own personal example, just to make it personal for a second, I was brought up in a certain social class, in a certain ethnic minority group in England.
It's a mixture of. I know what you're going to say.
A certain number of years ago.
And you still became a Muslim.
And all the indications were that the outcome would be within certain parameters.
Yeah.
But actually, I became a Muslim.
Yeah.
Now, this is like freakily wow. There's no obvious social or economic or cultural determinism.
Of course not.
Because I, through my own thinking pursuits, intellectual pursuits, discovered something and thought about it and came to a rational decision. But that wasn't predetermined.
No, of course
because
not.
we know that lots of people have come to very different conclusions than I did, with the same information, the same background.
Absolutely.
So I agree with you.
But
there's no big narrative that will say that's determined from the Big Bang onwards that I will become a Muslim. I just don't see that.
No,
I'll send you something, and I'd love your critique on it, and then you can tell me why you don't think so.
Can we make?
Because if you do believe that, if you were to accept the universe is deterministic, then obviously that makes a bit of a mockery of free will, as most people understand it. Because you've got three options. You've got determinism, libertarianism, and compatibilism.
I'm a compatibilist.
Yes, I thought.
No, I don't know what that is. What's compatibilism?
So there's
it's called having a cake and eating it.
Okay.
So compatibilism basically says that even though there may be some determinism in the world, if your thoughts and everything else generated within inside of yourself without external internal pressure, then that's consistent with free will. And as somebody argues that I'll send the book, that's just skirting the issue. That's not getting to the core of free will. Because most people, when you say free will, most people go, okay, that means I've got control over everything I think, every action I'm going to have at this moment in time, and I could have done something different in the past.
Free will. I would argue for
I'd
limited
have to
free
read that,
will.
but I mean, I don't see
Limited.
Yeah,
free
of
will.
course.
That's
yeah.
what not for some kind of naive free will that you're talking
I
about.
think that you have total free will within the choices that you have. You don't have total choices, right? Your choices are extremely limited.
Okay.
Your choice is extremely limited, but within those choices, you have total free will.